Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending wherever you are in the world, and welcome back to the channel. And in today's video, we are going to be looking at how Sir Alex Ferguson would potentially line up if he was to be Manchester United manager in 2024. We're going to quickly have a look at kind of how he set his teams up in the past, what types of roles he utilised the most, and the types of players that he had available to him. And then we're going to, after the clips that you're going to see all the goals, I played 5 games with Manchester United. These are all the goals that we did score in those 5 games. They weren't full games, but we did end up getting some nice goals, and I think a really nice 9-2 victory at one stage as well. But just a little bit of a deep dive then into kind of Sir Alex Ferguson and how he set up his team. We're going to be looking mainly at the 99 treble winning side, where he had the likes of Dennis Irwin, he had Jaap Stam, he had Ryan Giggs, Gary Neville, David Beckham, Dwight Yorke, Andy Cole. The team was ridiculous, and he really got the best out of what he had available to him. The types of players that he had, he got the most out of. So we're going to be looking at kind of what types of roles that they had, and if they would be transferable to the squad in 2024. So starting at left back, obviously Dennis Irwin was in his early 30s, so coming towards the end of his career, although still an absolutely wonderful left back, arguably one of the greatest in Premier League history. He had more of a reserve role at this point, kind of not bombing forward as much, leaving that kind of width to Ryan Giggs, who was out on that left hand side, hugging the touchline, giving himself kind of the strength that he had, trying to take people on one-on-one. He was so fast, so quick, explosive. Not many people could keep up with him, and what a wonderful player he was. So they kind of combined really nicely. Irwin sitting a little bit narrower, almost as an inverted fullback before inverted fullbacks became extremely popular. And then contrary on the other side, we had Gary Neville, who was an out-and-out fullback, wing-back, however you want to say it. He was up and down the pitch constantly. Really good defensive presence as well, but getting the ball in, crossing, overlapping his right-hand side teammate, which was David Beckham, who naturally wasn't an out-and-out winger, but a wide playmaker, so kind of dropped in between the fullback and the centre-half, offering that the kind of creative presence in the pocket, because a lot of the formations back in that time was, very simple 4-4-2. So spaces in those, what we refer to now as like half spaces, were available to him, being able to get onto the ball as much as possible. David Beckham in these positions as well, as Bruno steps up, would have tucked this into the back of the net. And Bruno does exactly the same. I think Bruno would have worked absolutely perfectly in that role. Stepping in from the right-hand side, which we'll delve a little bit deeper into once we go through the tactics. But yeah, that's kind of what David Beckham's role was. And then in front of him, the 2 strikers, Andy Cole and Dwight Yorke. Dwight Yorke was actually one of the highest assisting forwards or players in general in the Premier League at the time. I think he was either level on assists or he was one behind, along with grabbing a crazy amount of goals along with Cole. A really, really good partnership. Dwight Yorke was the one who dropped a little bit deeper, and then Andy Cole kind of played on the last man. They had a really, really good partnership together. Scored a lot of goals, assisted each other, and just kind of terrorised defences all across the board. So I think, again, having a partnership of 2 strikers would definitely work in 2024, especially with the personnel that we do have available to us. Into the midfield, we had Roy Keane, who was the slightly more defensive of the 2. Of course, being a 4-4-2, there was only 2, and Roy Keane really did provide a good balance to that midfield, where he would sit a little bit deeper, not so much dictate play, But his touch, his first touch, was incredible. Severely underrated in his passing and his ball control. Although not having the expansive passing range of a Paul Scholes, who played next to him, certainly somebody who would never really lose the ball cheaply, always kind of made the right decisions, probably and arguably one of the greatest captains the Premier League has ever seen, and just a real force on the defensive end, never gave up on anything, demanded the highest performances from his teammates and himself, so a real leader in that midfield. And then obviously Paul Scholes on the left hand side of the two was the one that kind of got forward a little bit more, provided more assists, scored a lot of goals in his earlier days before dropping deeper and kind of dictating play and just kind of driving the tempo of the teams all the time. He was a little bit more athletic than two, got on the end of all sorts of things, scoring wonder goals as per usual that you would associate with Paul Scholes, which was one of his real strong suits at the beginning of his career, getting on the end of things and scoring more goals. In terms of the centre-backs, this is where it kind of gets interesting. So all centre-backs pretty much through Fergie's tenure at Manchester United, he had unbelievable one-on-one, one versus one defenders. Whether it was, Nemanja Vidic, Rio Ferdinand, Jaap Stam, who else? Ronnie Johnson. Just really, really good defenders. A lot of the time they were left 2-on-2, which is a cardinal sin nowadays. Even in Sunday League, the base, you don't leave 2 versus 2 hardly ever, unless you're chasing the game. You always want a 3 versus 2 in your favour, of course. But he trusted his centre backs, and that's what he wanted from his team. He wanted them to be aggressive. He wanted them to kind of take risks, but it always rewarded itself. And what a goal this is, by the way. 1-touch, 2-touch plays, finds Rasmus, little chip over the goalkeeper. That's such a good goal. But yeah, that's what he kind of wanted from his teams. We're coming up to almost the penultimate clip of the games that we did play, and then I'm going to go into the tactics, how to kind of emulate and move around certain people, even the types of lineups that we could have seen, or we could see, if obviously Ferguson would have taken control of this Manchester United team in 2024. So this is the final clip where Ahmad is on the right hand side, the goalkeeper comes out. This guy had enough, he wanted to leave, finds Garnacho, who puts it in at the near post, and that is game over. So I will take you now through all of the custom tactics and the team lineups too. Okay, so here we are at the tactics screen where we're going to be going through the team sheet, who he would have potentially preferred in positions, and different types of variations to what he could have done. Starting off with Andre Onana. Now personally, I think no one is going to come close to what Peter Schmeichel did at Manchester United. Arguably one of the greatest one-on-one defenders, or one-on-one goalkeepers, sorry, in Premier League history. So dominant in the air, huge saves when it came to one-on-ones. It really did kind of, he had that X factor in goal where even if a striker went through one-on-one with him, they knew it. He had the favour. Everything that he did made himself huge and stopped so many goals. So I think it's difficult to kind of judge Onana versus kind of Schmeichel, just because Schmeichel was so good. But being pretty much the only goalkeeper, that's what he would have gone with. Now on the right hand side, as I mentioned before, Gary Neville was somebody that got up and down the pitch constantly, delivering crosses, being good on the ball, being smart and solid defensively, and having a really nice relationship with his right winger, which was David Beckham. I think Dalot kind of fits this role perfectly. Although he can kind of invert, and he has done throughout the season, I think Dalot has been arguably Manchester United's most consistent player this season. But being on this right hand side and pairing up with Bruno Fernandes, who in my opinion could play anywhere in the midfield, and even kind of where Rashford is in the team right now. But being on that right hand side allows him to have that creative flair that he's got. He sees a pass that hardly anyone in the Premier League sees, and he also can produce outrageous passes through to the strikers, switch of plays, just things that people either don't see or just could never imagine pulling off. And does have the similar passing range as a David Beckham. So I think he would be awesome on this right hand side. He obviously would have synergy with Dalot, being both Portuguese, and I think Bruno has played in this right hand side position before for Portugal. Wow, almost said so many different things. For Portugal on this right hand side, where he did kind of act as a number 10, allowing the right back, which I think was João Cancelo, to get up and down, or Semedo. So I think Dalot and Bruno in this right hand side of the pitch would have been perfect, and they would have really paired well together. The two centre backs, we have Lisandro Martinez and Varane. Again, I think arguably Martinez, if he stays fit, will be up there with one of the best centre backs in the league. He's so good defensively, he's so solid, he's really, really smart with the ball. He can break lines with dribbling or passing. He's just everything that all the centre backs Sir Alex Ferguson had. He has it all. Maybe not being just super dominant in the air like a Vidic, being only 5'10", he does win aerial duels, but he's more of a defender that kind of is smart about it, wins a lot of tackles, sweeps up everything. Same as Varane. I think Varane is slightly better in the air, or quite a bit better in the air, but very, very quick as well. So can play a high line, and you would trust them. If they were left 2-on-2, you would trust them to kind of get out of it and deal with it properly. If you were to have somebody like Johnny Evans, I think he gets a little bit found out with his pace, same as Harry Maguire. And to be honest, I don't see why you couldn't, in some situations, even consider playing Wan-Bissaka as a centre half in games that you know you're going to have a lot of the ball, and things like counter-attacks are really the only time the opposition are going to have anything. I don't think it would be a terrible decision to kind of play him there, because he's quick, he's athletic, his one-on-one defending is arguably the best in the Premier League, especially at that fullback position. It's just a little bit of a shame that he has very, very limited ability going forward. On the left-hand side, as before mentioned, Luke Shaw would play this role really, really well. He does have the physicality and kind of ability to definitely go on the outside, whip crosses in. He paired really, really nice with Marcus Rashford. When Rashford was playing really well, Luke Shaw was always in that left back position, creating really nice synergy when Rashford cut in. But I think if Luke Shaw played here, and Sir Alex Ferguson would have probably picked him here, it would have allowed Garnacho to have the chances to go one-on-one with defenders. He's super, super quick off the mark. He's really, really technically gifted. When he drives at people, you know, he has that ability to kind of just nick the ball in front of the defender, winning penalties, free kicks. He's a nightmare to go up against inside the box and just outside the box. He can deliver a good cross. His shooting is decent, and obviously scored that absolute worldie against Everton, the overhead kick. I think if Garnacho does improve his final decision making, whether it be crossing and his quality overall in the final third, being only 19, 20 years old, he has a really, really nice high potential, and a really, really high ceiling in terms of how far he could go. And I think he would excel in that left hand side, hugging the touchline and getting so many chances one-on-one to beat defenders. In the middle, so this is where you could potentially change personnel. You could put Kobbie Mainoo in the slightly deeper role, and then bring Bruno into like a number 8 role, and then have somebody like Amad Diallo out on the right hand side, potentially an Anthony although he hasn't really produced anything over the season or the season before. He's had a really poor 2 years. You could put Mason Mount in here. There are quite a few options. Scott McTominay I wouldn't put in the midfield. I don't think he is as technically gifted to play in a 4-4-2. 100% I could see him playing as this second striker role where he kind of links the play, gets on the end of everything. A real danger man in the box. He's shown it for Manchester United this season, and he has also shown it for Scotland. He's been really impressive in this kind of second striker role when he has played there. But I think Amrabat, depending if we could keep him at Manchester United, I think they have to only pay another 10 million euros to secure the signing full-time permanently, which I don't think is a terrible signing considering he's 27. He's still got a few years left in him. It's not overly expensive, and with the expected departure of Casemiro, who would have played here, I think Amrabat is a good squad player to kind of come in. We do definitely need to sign a first team nailed on starter in this position to kind of pair with Mainoo, whether that be somebody like a João Neves from Benfica, who is unbelievable. It all kind of depends who they can afford, I guess. And then obviously Kobbie Mainoo, I think is more of a number 8. I don't see him as a number 6. Potentially could play a little bit further, but I think a number 8 is perfect for him. He does everything so well, and I think even Paul Scholes says he's more talented than what Paul Scholes was at his age. What a compliment that is. And I think he did show it. Obviously scored in the FA Cup final. He's shown some real quality in the final third this season, and being a breakout season as well, and being injured for the majority of the start of it, I think he has a really, really bright future, and definitely somebody who would, in Sir Alex Ferguson's system, 100% kind of thrive, along with somebody like a Garnacho. Getting forward, getting involved with the play, being able to link up, but also has, the physicality to work back and defend really well too. As I said before, Bruno Fernandes on this right hand side being the creative hub and allowing Dalot to overlap on that right hand side, and with Amrabat being a little bit deeper, allows him even more space on this right hand side. Rashford being this kind of slightly deeper centre forward. As you see, we do actually put him as a centre forward, which I will show you how to get to in a second. When he burst onto the scene, he was a striker, and I personally believe if he is up front with somebody, I don't think he can lead the line on his own at all. But if he's with somebody else and he gets to play off somebody else and he can make runs off of somebody else, I think he's somebody that would really benefit with having a strike partner alongside him, and kind of take the pressure off of just him scoring goals. With Garnacho being preferred this season on the left hand side, although I personally believe that is Rashford's best position, I certainly think Rashford could play as a second striker. He certainly has the pace to burst past people. He has the physicality. It's just his work rate, which could be a slight problem. And with that is where I think in tougher games you could potentially see a Scott McTominay drop in here as a second striker, or you kind of put Bruno in there, right? You put Bruno in here, and then you take Rashford off for Anthony. Although Anthony doesn't do anything going forwards, his defensive work rate is very good. You could even put Amad Diallo in there, Mason Mount. There are lots and lots of options, but I think Rashford would see a quite significant boost in kind of productivity with goals and assists, especially Rasmus Højlund. Again, watching him this season, I felt really sorry for him. It's like a graveyard shift at Manchester United. Some games he came off with like one shot, no shots, and then both wingers had like 5+, which is crazy to me. Playing as a striker, you want shots, you want chances. It doesn't really matter if you create loads of chances for other people too. You don't mind that so much as long as you're kind of getting involved. But he just didn't have a chance to get involved. The ball wasn't played to him a lot, and if it was overhit, or it was kind of up in the air, and it was like, go and fetch this for us, bring it down under crazy amounts of pressure. So he had no service. And if you look at Rasmus Højlund when he played at Atalanta, he had a second striker with him, somebody slightly more creative. But then he also had people like Zapata who played next to him, who drew kind of the pressure. And then Rasmus was able to run the channels, be that slightly more creative striker. He loved to kind of run channels and then cross balls in, whether it be on the right hand side or left hand side. You could even play him here and leave Rashford as the striker to kind of get him behind all the time. I think to do that, Rasmus definitely has to improve on his hold up play and kind of link play. But being his first season and only 21 years of age, definitely has a high ceiling as well, and could be one of, if not, yeah, one of the better or best strikers in the Premier League for sure. So how to get to this? It is basically a flat 4-4-2. As you see, this is what you start with, and then this is our version of the 4-4-2. So what we're going to be doing is the right hand side, you want to basically just push up a little bit and slightly wider. You want to keep him as a right back. You could put him as a right wing back, it doesn't really matter. But you want him pretty wide. It's not all the way wide, but fairly wide. If you don't know how to adjust positions, this is only on seasons or offline. You can't do this on Ultimate Team anymore, since people started playing with 2 banks of 5, and it was impossible to get past. So this is only in seasons you can do this. But you want to play him as a right back. Then with Varane, you just want to drop him back slightly. You don't want to, because I think he starts somewhere up here. You just want to drop him back to be a right centre back. And the reason you do that is because you want this right hand centre mid to be a right CDM. Now this will make sense when you go into instructions, and I'll show you that in a second. But it provides that balance in midfield, where if they're both centre mids, even though you say stay back, more often than not the midfield becomes a little bit unbalanced and doesn't really emulate what Sir Alex Ferguson would have had, and it provides that kind of stability with Mainu pushing forward as well. On the left hand side, Luke Shaw, you want him to come quite a bit narrower, but you want him to be a left back. So if you go up by one of where I've got it, the only choice you can have is left wing back. So you do want him as high as possible, but with the left back role chosen. Kobe is literally the same. You can push him slightly further forward if you want to, but you always want him to be a left centre mid, not a left cam, not a left CDM. Left centre mid is perfect. Garnacho out on this left hand side, you want to push him all the way to the sideline. You can't go any further. With him, you want him slightly further up as well as a left winger. On the right hand side with Bruno, you just want to tuck him into this kind of right hand channel. Again, this is completely up to you. If you want him a little bit further, that's fine. If you want it even a little bit deeper, that's fine. But I've currently got him as a right midfielder, slightly inverted on this right. Marcus Rashford, as you've already seen, is a centre forward. You just want to basically drop him enough to where he's a centre forward instead of kind of a, because if you have him all the way up here, then he's a right striker. So you want him as a centre forward. Again, you can kind of mess with the depth and how much you want. You don't want him to be anywhere near a cam. A centre forward is perfect for Rashford, and then Rasmus is all the way up. You just want to push him all the way up on this left hand side as a striker. So that's how you kind of get to the positions and everything that you would have seen in the clips. In terms of tactics, Sir Alex Ferguson did really like a press after possession loss style. If it was high up the pitch, he wanted to win the ball in the opposition's half, which they did quite successfully. And as I said, it does lead a few opportunities to the opposition to hit long balls and be very direct when it's, especially when it's 2 versus 1. or 2 versus 2, sorry, at the back. Team width is 37. So Alex Ferguson didn't really mind if crosses came in. He always had big centre halves who could deal with the ball in the air, and a goalkeeper who would come out and clear everything with Schmeichel, Yapstam, Jonsson, whether it was Vidic, Ferdinand. They were all really good in the air, so they didn't mind crosses coming in. Of course, they wanted to stop a source, but they wanted to have a really narrow width. They didn't want to be played through. Depth as 72. If you are more comfortable, then don't be afraid to push it up. If you're less comfortable with kind of being super aggressive up the pitch, just drop it back. Feel whatever is comfortable for you. Offense, you want fast build up. Manchester United back in the day were one of the most exciting and electrifying teams on the counter-attack, whether it be in Europe, you know, against Bayern Munich, Juventus, anyone like that. They did tend to sit off a little bit more and catch people on the counter, rather than when they played a lesser team like in the Premier League. They wanted to dominate the ball as much as possible, but also with that high intensity style of winning the ball back, being combative in the midfield, and getting it wide, getting crosses in, etc. And fast build up really allows kind of, especially Kobbie Mainoo, to get forward and kind of help and link everything. You would have seen in the clips, he's always in decent positions, getting forward, getting into the box, and the fast build up really helps him to get into those positions quicker. Chance creation is on direct passing. The AI in Eafc 24 is somewhat questionable, and direct passing really helps with making runs, and the making smart runs, better runs, so you can find those, and it really does couple well nicely with fast build up, with the players kind of already charging into decent positions, and then direct passing really drawing them out, allowing you to have a lot of space in the attacking and final third. Width, we went with 57, not too kind of crazy, but not narrow either. Just a really nice balance. Again, if you want a slightly more tiki-taka, or just where you can play 5-10 yard passes really quickly, then don't be afraid to drop this again to whatever you want. But yeah, 56, 57 is really nice. You want players in the box. It was an emphasis of Sir Alex Ferguson, kind of forcing people to get into the box, getting on the end of crosses. You would have seen, if you didn't watch it, when Cristiano Ronaldo was playing out on the wing, you had Rooney, Tevez getting into the box. Cristiano Ronaldo's goal against Roma, I think, in the Champions League, where he comes absolutely steaming in, pretty much from the halfway line. He gets on the end of crosses. That's how much Ferguson wanted people in the box. That's how much desire they had to get on the end of things in the box, as well as just Cristiano Ronaldo being Cristiano Ronaldo. Corners on 3, free kicks on 2, so you don't get counter-attacked that much from free kicks. Again, if you don't want to be counter-attacked, just drop it down to 2 with corners, but I didn't really find it was so much of a problem. In terms of instructions then, so for Dalot it was join the attack and overlap. For Luke Shaw it was balanced and inverted, so you didn't really touch. You could have stay back while attacking to provide yourself with a little bit more stability at the back, but I didn't really find you had to do that, because you had Amrabat kind of patrolling the middle. But Dalot, you definitely wanted to get on the overlap. In the midfield, this is why you have Amrabat as a central defensive midfielder rather than a centre mid. Cut passing lanes, stay back while attacking, and cover centre. He was really, really good, and in a lot of good positions as well, to kind of cut out counter-attacks before they got to Martinez and Varane. Kobbie is balanced all around, including cover centre. Bruno, because he is a right midfielder, you want cut inside and come short with aggressive interceptions. Now, because I've put crossing or people get into the box on 8, I've left support on crosses balanced for Bruno. Out on the right hand side we have Garnacho on stay wide, also balanced. You could put getting behind, but I kind of wanted a nice and balanced. If I wanted him to come short, I would use the button to tell him to come short. Same for going long. Aggressive interceptions, again, that's something that I did actually notice when I think you would have seen one of the goals where Bruno stepped in front of the defender picking up the ball and we went and scored from it. So aggressive interceptions was really nice. Marcus Rashford on stay central. You don't want kind of getting behind target player or false nine. A mixed balance is really nice. He dropped into really good positions all of the time, and I think if you kind of try and shoehorn him into getting behind or target player or false nine, it would kind of negate the other aspects of what he could be doing and offering. But with Rasmus Højlund, it's stay central, getting behind as well. So that is everything, guys. If you have any suggestions or if you disagree with anything, make sure you put it down in the comments. Maybe put a starting 11 that you would think Sir Alex Ferguson would use with this kind of tactic. But yeah, this is going to be the end of the video. I really hope you enjoyed this video. It's been a lot of fun to kind of play with the tactic and try and emulate his style. It's been really fun. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and also hit that notification bell so you get notified when I do upload another video. Also, like the video, comment anything down below. It really helps the video. And yeah, I hope you have an awesome rest of the day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.